Okay, so in terms of resources, the book, one of the main suggestions from the book was, and there was a whole chapter devoted to it at the end, was use all the resources you can get your hands on. It's not about just a textbook anymore, nor is it just about a teacher standing at the front of the room. And I guess this is a notion that is synonymous again with 21st century learning. The number of times I say it sounds almost ridiculous, but the book said use what you can use. And so one of the aims I had during this project was to use the huge range of media that's available to me. In addition to the sites that were suggested like Boozoo, the BBC, 101 Languages, etc. I've also used Languages Online. Also, there was the site livemocker.com, which is similar to Boozoo, and I have also signed up for that. And that was one that was directly suggested from the book. Around halfway through the holidays, I went to Leichhardt Library, and I borrowed a couple of books. So this is one of the books I borrowed. It's an intensive language course book, and I didn't borrow it with the ideal to actually just pick out units and phrases, etc. for the project, but rather to consolidate what I've already learnt and just go through and, I guess, look at the activities and then use it somewhat as a checklist. So if I could do all the things that they were asking me to do in this intensive book and beyond, I was satisfied with what I'd learned. And if I didn't know it, I'd make sure I could go to it and actually learn what it was asking. Another resource I've used during this course is the Echo Uno textbook. And I haven't really used the workbook. It's quite basic, I've found, and we've gone beyond it in class, but it's a good starting point. That's where I first turned to for our topic of animals, for basic vocab, for particular animals. Also, upon my trip to Leichhardt Library, I borrowed some children's books. So I couldn't find familiar stories like I originally wanted to, except the Pied Piper. The other ones are originals, but the way that they're set out is they have the Italian and the English, and images obviously. So what I've been doing is covering the English at the bottom with a piece of paper and doing my best to pick out the words, and I've been able to get through most of the books without having to look at the English and check in as I go. Other than that, the internet's been incredible. I've looked at newspapers, but they haven't really had much in terms of resources for this project. I did, however, get on one of the hardest things about immersion, which is what the book suggested, was finding it. Some girls at school have grandparents, etc. that can talk. Nikki said she's been talking to her grandparents, but I don't have that. So I've been doing quite a bit of listening online to individual words in particular, and I got on the iTunes store and I'm now subscribed to 5 different Italian podcasts. One of them, the SBS News, so that's purely world affairs in Italian, so that it's here in the language. The other 4, however, or other 3, sorry, are Learn Italian podcasts. So there's one called 1 Minute Italian, so they're not actually 1 minute segments, but very short, under 10 minutes. Very intensive type things. Learn Italian Pod is great. I use that specifically for the food and drinks unit, and there are various levels within that. So the beginner, intermediate, and intermediate upper. And I went through all 3 of those levels for food and drink to pick out dialogue, key phrases, and expressions that can be applied. The other ones are very basic, greetings, etc., but just listening to them is it's just perfect in order to hear the voices. And Learn Italian Pod in particular sounds very native It's Italian man and woman who live in the States at the moment and teach Italian. So, I mean, I've done my best to use several different resources and YouTube as well. So, yeah.